In order for us to get through this, we have to get through it together, and just kind of realize that it really isn't about me at the moment, but it's about us making it to the finish line. It's kind of like a relay race, and we all have to get there together. Hi, I'm Christian. I live in Washington, D.C. I live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with 2 other roommates. Even though I know my roommates well, I have taken kind of a personal responsibility to checking in on their well-being and like their mental health, and not being blunt like, hey, like, how are you doing today? But I think it's really important that you have to accept that because you're living with somebody, their mental and physical well-being will impact yours and vice versa, and it's important to be responsible that way. Compared to with your family, growing up with them, you might understand things a little bit better, but now more than ever, you have to kind of, lend a hand a little bit more, however that might be. I have been really big on trying to like increase our communication, finding the balance between like over communicating, like, I don't know, like, hey, I'm leaving the house now, but every time the mayor or the federal government or even Virginia or Maryland has made like an announcement about COVID-19, I think we've kind of texted the group just so we're all aware. A big one was kind of when the stay at home orders were made, and some of them were recommendations and then others became kind of like official orders, making sure that we were aware of that. If we leave the house to go get groceries, always asking like, hey, do you need anything? Trying to reduce the contact with everyone outside of the house. I've been trying to find several ways to cope with social distancing, and sometimes it's had to be isolation. And at first, when we simply had kind of like the 6-foot rule and everyone was kind of able to walk around the city, I was trying to use my hobbies to cope, mainly photography. But then I noticed that, especially in our neighborhood with a lot of the parks and not being too far from the National Mall, not everyone was really following some of those rules. So I had to make a decision to cut back on that, which has been challenging. So I've kind of transitioned my coping to posting a lot of my photos, which I think is me thinking I'm helping other people, but it's really just helping me by sharing things I like. But then also really making an effort to FaceTime my friends, call my friends. I've always loved cooking, and now that I get to work from home, fortunately, I've been cooking more at home. And something that I've felt has been very helpful with that is not only cooking a meal, but kind of making a presentation, putting a little bit more. I've been watching a lot of Bon Appetit Test Kitchen, a lot of Allison Roman, New York Times cooking, and so really trying to create that environment in my own kitchen, and then even the way that I present my meals, and then even sharing it with people on social media. So if you're also living in, similar situation with roommates, I definitely think, as I said before, communication is really key, but also having an open mind and being understanding, and sometimes you have to be the bigger person and realize that like everyone's life is changing. I definitely feel like I'm learning a lot, or if anything, it's less that I'm learning a lot, but reality is forcing me to apply lessons that I've already kind of picked up. Learning how to be vocal. I feel like sometimes I have to like keep myself back from being the first person to speak or the first person to raise my hand. And when you have a pandemic on your hands, and when, for instance, like my mom's like a healthcare worker, my father had to get repatriated from abroad, there are situations where you have to be the person who sometimes makes that first call and say, hey mom, just want to check on you. But then also balancing. My sister, who's a mental health care provider, has also reminded me that this is a marathon and that you have to balance your need to help other people with the fact that you have to kind of stay grounded, since this is going to be months long, hopefully only months. And that's definitely been the biggest lesson I have to remind myself every single day. It's definitely hope. Something that a lot of people have been sharing on social media is kind of like, we might be apart, but we're still together. And knowing that with every single day, I have the ability to still put a smile on someone's face. Or, I had a 4-hour FaceTime with a friend that was just, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I see this friend all the time, but just to know that we are still there for each other is extremely hopeful. I also think that something I remind myself, and something that I try to tell people who I think are very surprised that this is happening, is that this isn't the first global pandemic. It probably won't be the last one. And, though it hasn't always been pretty, we as a society, we as, the human species, will make it on the other end, and we just have to keep looking at that and keep focusing on that.